On today's show, we have two different stories for you brought to you by our researcher, Sarah, who's first digging into some different water organizations around the world and how they're working to preserve water, think through community water issues, and really work with local groups to try to preserve the finite water resources that are available. She brings us back to Texas, which, of course, has multiple extremely water scarce communities. We can look across the state and think about places like Corpus Christi right now that are going through extreme drought and even are facing state takeover of their water resources because of how limited those resources are and how they've been utilized. And so, as we think about our own problems here, we're looking globally to imagine what solutions are at play elsewhere and think about what we can learn from that. We follow that up with a piece where we talk to a local nonprofit organization that's been doing work around wolves and wolf dogs, and we talk with them about how they are protecting animals right here in Houston. I'm Weston Twardowski, the Associate Director of Rice's Center for Environmental Studies and Associate Director of Eco Studio in Rice's Sustainability Institute, and you're listening to Gulf Streams on KPFT Houston 90.1 FM, Galveston 89.5 FM, and Huntsville 89.7 FM, where we talk with leading experts and community leaders to better understand the environmental problems and potential solutions facing our community. A quick reminder that you can catch up on Gulf Streams anytime through our podcast, available on all major podcast platforms. If you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode.
Hey, it's Sarah Tabrez, and today I'm sitting down with Delfin Montañana from Isla Urbana and Jorge Loyo of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering to explore how technology and community-driven solutions are reshaping the future of water. Just to begin, could you introduce yourself and the nonprofit in general?
Yeah, of course. Hello, my name is Delfín Montañana. I'm the director of social environmental education in an NGO that is named Isla Urbana. And we work on water sustainability, trying to contribute to build and sustain a better water hydrological future. Using as main tool the rain harvesting systems that we design and we install in many different locations, principally houses, but also we work in cultural centers, sport places, schools, and mostly any building that actually can be adapted to develop the skill, no, the capability in the building to harvest the rain that is falling on the roof and then use that water, treat that water and purify it in order that it can be used inside of the house, the school, or the building. Um, yeah, that's basically what we do.
Yeah, and I know that Isla Urbana emerged, of course, like as you're saying, in response to water scarcity in Mexico. Was there like a specific moment or realization that made it clear that rainwater harvesting specifically could be part of the solution for water scarcity?
Yeah, it is. It links to the beginning of the organization where the founders, who are Enrique Lobnitz and Renata Fenton, they were finishing their like undergrad thesis project. They study industrial design and they decide to like purposely use their this like final work of the career uh, to develop something that does not really generates a new need in society, but instead of that, uh, try to help to solve a problem. Then in their research, they were working here in Mexico City and they found that the water scarcity was a huge issue in several parts of the city, but also that every year those areas in which the people have, let's say, thirsty or huge necessity of water, during rainy season, the rain just flood the place and pour a lot of water to the place, and all that water wasn't used. And they linked that actually there was a potential The potential is what we can do with that water that it's available and for free in every part of the city. And I like this story because they focus on the realization of the potential instead of only searching for the solution of a problem.
Yeah. No, that's really well put. It seems like it's a very like well thought out system from its initiation till now. Um, and just in general, because I know that the Isla Urbana website talks about this a little bit, but can you kind of just describe the water crisis in Mexico to someone that maybe hasn't experienced it firsthand, or maybe discuss kind of, sort of misconceptions that people often have about water access in cities like Mexico City?
Yeah, of course. The water situation and the scarcity that is related with it in Mexico City, it's something that is not unique for this city. It's actually very common in most of the human settlements all around the world, and especially in those so-called third world countries, no, for these like political and economic standards, no. But what happened is that the systems has been like being designed for centuries, and with different like waves of technology and infrastructure. But the fact is that all the systems that actually are designed in order to provide water to the populations are developed from a specific point of view or perspective of the design, that it's more an engineering design on what it's called the great design, that it's focused on bringing a lot of water and make the infrastructure, and it's heavily centralized. No? Then this heavily centralization has a certain limit during the process of building of the infrastructure. And during the time that the cities keep growing, there are certain areas that are not covered by the central grid, no, and that increase through the expansion of the city, right? Then, and the other thing is that the system that the sources of water are overexploited, then that actually it's another issue, because that system that maybe used to be accurate and work maybe 100 years ago or 5 decades ago, now is not only population, but also it's facing that the increase the city size and the population are demanding more water, and the place is not having the accurate balance, natural balance in the living system in order to recharge the source, the natural source of water. Then most of the sources are overexploited. In front of this, harvesting the rain is develop brings a different kind of perspective into the water infrastructure. And the other is that it's a eco technology that it's considered ecosystem based strategy that actually is very useful for the future in the conditions of the climate change.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when it comes to like throughout the years how you've adapted your systems for different environments, are there like different approaches that you take for instance, like a more urban area versus rural, and like different rainfall patterns or housing structures?
Of course. Yeah, the system, the I think the magical of the system is that it's a modular design that actually adapts itself in order to different conditions. And as you say, there's different like elements that actually allows us to design the system that it's more accurate for the needs of the house. And these are several things under consideration. First of all, is the amount of rain that you have in the place. The second is the size of the roof that actually will be like the capture surface in which you will harvest the rain. And the other is the need, the quality of the water that is needed under that roof, and also the amount of volume that is needed. And the fourth is the storage tank that it's available. Maybe already it's available in the house, but if not, the amount of storage that needs to be built or provided to the place. Then these four factors actually plays like it's affecting the final result. And that means that every system that we install is a different design. No, we approach communities, no, and we make a diagnostic process of analysis of the site and understanding of the water precariousness and scarcity in the place. We need to actually make a technical visit to the house. And in that, we recognize the specific condition of this house or the place, the building. And with the family, we take some decision about the design and the position of the components that we'll have when it is installed.
And kind of following up with that, right? And like in terms of, adapting to different areas. I know that your role is like specifically director of like socio-environmental education. So in your role, like when it comes to entering, like for instance, a new community and wanting to implement harvesting technologies, how you kind of like approach, I guess, conversing with a community that hasn't been familiar with technology before.
Yeah. Yeah. In my role, I work a lot we have developed different like models of approaching the communities. But because we get in contact with communities with different ways, no, there's different paths in which sometimes the community calls us. Sometimes the work in a community is related with a specific financial source or the source of the budget for the project. In other, there's maybe we go and search for communities and we find a specific community. Then any of those paths in which we get in contact with the community, we need to establish a relation that is deep and rooted in confidence and trust. And for that, what we start is talking with leaders, community leaders in the place, but also we work through the development of community meetings in which we explain the process to the community. And then we keep going with the community meetings in order to like enlist beneficiaries in the people or houses in the place, and then we start with technical visits in order to have a technical vial of the systems of the installation of the systems in those.
And kind of going back to some of the previous questions, I kind of wanted to ask about the maintenance of of these systems. So, like for instance, like how do you guys identify and support, local leaders in certain communities um to help sustain these like projects after your team leaves?
Yeah. It depends of the community, and there's like different pathways that we have been running and during all the years. But the basic idea is that we need to develop the capabilities on the individuals that actually now owns the systems. Now the systems is installed in a house, and now it's property of the house owners. And what we do is we develop the capability in order to generate a practice. Then that's why we work a lot in the explaining how the system works and what is the need of maintenance and accurate use. But mostly with the population, we create manuals to create different materials, graphical, physical materials in order to explain, but also to use as tools by the individuals or communities to keep check of the maintenance that need to be done in different components, because there's component that needs to be used or maintained every day in a daily base during the rainy season, but others you need to go to clean maybe every 15 days or every month, no? Or for example, the roof or the storage of water need to be completely clean, no, at least once a year.
I'm sure you've seen many like successful collaborations with different partnerships, but have you seen successful collaborations with like municipal governments or specific NGOs that helped scale your work? And going forward in the future, are there any partnerships that you look forward to?
Yeah, yeah, we have had a very successful partnership and alliances with different entities in the government and at municipal and state level in different times during the Urbana work, but also with companies have like long-term projects with companies and foundations right now going that we started like just after the COVID pandemic. And we're still working with them. These are corporate, international level corporations. Um, and we also have been working with some foundations. And these specifically the companies slash corporation and this foundation has helped us to improve and redesign certain processes, parts or procedures of our processes, not only in the social process that we perform in the community, but also internally. There's a foundation that is the Moises Itzkovich Foundation that actually helped us to develop like a lot of internal documents in a process of like institutionalization, if I can say that, no, that became more institutional or institutionalized the Lluvia para Todos, which is the nonprofit branch of Isla Urbana. This has been running for the last 5 years. And then this constitutes a very strategic alliance for us with a mutual benefit in which we have learned a lot about our goal and our like purpose, but also the way that the organization needs to build itself in order to sustain what we want to do in the world.
Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for sitting down and talking and having this interview with me. But thank you so much for sitting down. I'm now sitting down with Jorge Loyo to discuss the science and implementation of water treatment systems and what it takes to make them work in real-world conditions. So, just to start off, can you introduce yourself for our audience and describe what initially maybe drew you to focus on water and environmental engineering?
Well, my name is Jorge Loyo, and I'm with the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department. I'm an assistant teaching professor. And well, I first got interested in, it's a long story, but when I was in college, I was interested in toxicology, mainly. And that basically took me to do work in environmental chemistry. And then that's how kind of things started. I was very interested in measuring contaminants in the environment and its effects. I think originally I was more interested in the toxicology part, but then as I started working in the field, I started being more interested in the chemistry, right? And how to measure these contaminants.
Yeah, no, sounds really interesting. I know that you have worked with iSeed before at Rice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I personally am working with Isla Urbana this summer through the Lowenstern Fellowship. Yeah, an organization I know I assume you're familiar with. So when you think about improving water systems, right? What tends to be something that you feel like is overlooked, especially in, under-deserved or resource-limited areas?
Well, I think when you're talking about Isla Urbana in Mexico, so I think we're very well aware that countries outside other than the US, especially countries that we call underdeveloped or developing countries, have, need a need for water. One thing that I think people don't realize is how many people in the US don't have access to proper water and sanitation, several million people don't have the services here. So they're surprised to realize that it's not only somewhere else, but that in the US, we still have a lot of people who need better water and sanitation services.
Yeah. And, I know that, based on your extensive work in, water treatment and education, what do you think are the most critical challenges facing water access today, whether in a global scale or specifically in the US?
Well, water is interesting because it's so a lot of places have similar challenges, right? There's drought in different places, there's water pollution in different places. But once you go to every place, every issue is different. They are very hyper local, and the solutions have to be very tailored to the specific location. So you wouldn't solve the same problem in the same way everywhere, even though sometimes the technologies can be the same. Um, and I think something that I try to emphasize both in my class when I teach it here or when we do it in Mexico as part of ICED is um, how we tend to, especially as engineers or scientists, we tend to focus on place more emphasis on the technology, whereas these problems need a more holistic approach in order to really be sustainably addressed, right? If you want a solution to last and people to really adopt it, you have to think about the whole community rather than just think about what technology would be best.
Mm. And in your experience, what do you think are typically, I want to say, the most common reasons new water treatment systems fail after deployment or, are facing challenges?
I think at the municipal level, it's so the water industry is very conservative. We wouldn't just put a new system, a new technology, say for Houston, without it having been extensively tested and proven somewhere else. So when you build a water system for a city, uh, you're making an investment for the next 5 decades at least, right? So with that said, like a lot of the new technologies are not deployed at that level. We still rely on the traditional sort of water treatment that we've been doing for the last century plus. So yes, we test different things. I guess the latest innovation that has been widely adopted was reverse osmosis, specifically for desalination, a very high level or volume of treatment. So what I want to say is that I don't think the innovations that people are working in are like so quickly adopted that you would see them fail once they're deployed at a higher level. So you really have to build them up and test them extensively before you really go out and try to implement them at a very large scale.
Mhm. Mm. And just kind of follow up on something previous, kind of tying back to your work with Isla Urbana. Do you
Mhm.
think in like typically maybe lower resource settings, how should, I guess, decision makers in, like, for example, organizations that are focused on water scarcity, how do you think that they should prioritize which contaminants to address first?
Well, so what I've seen, the experience I've had with different NGOs that work on this in Mexico specifically, but other parts of the world as well, people are generally worried more about the traditional microbial pollutants, right? So people are worried about getting sick from bacterial infections. So a lot of the emphasis is still on that, like how do you provide safe drinking water? Um, a couple of organizations in Mexico as well that I've worked with are more concerned or starting to think more about things such as pesticides, for example. Like there's this other organization that I know in Mexico who is in the central part of the country, and they're more concerned about fluoride and arsenic because the water source is deep wells that have both compounds, and the concentrations have increased over time because people are trying to getting deeper and deeper sources of water that are more naturally contaminated with both of these. So it really depends on where you are and what the issues in that specific place are.
And I guess like this is kind of maybe more specific, but I know you teach a class at Rice, a civi class,
Mhm,
based
mhm,
on teaching students like how to like develop certain more sustainable solutions to current water crisis
mhm.
and water issues. Like from your experience in this class, are there any kind of sustainable solutions that you think will make a large impact maybe in the future, like things like bioretention systems, for instance, for flooding?
Like
Yeah.
it again, and it depends very specifically on each part of the world almost, and what their specific issues you're dealing with. I mean, in fact, a lot of the class is about how we should approach water issues from a more holistic perspective and not just think about what is the technological solution, because many times the real issue is not technological, right? And in fact, something that I'm very convinced of is that over time, the last 50 or so years that we've been trying to do all these water projects around the world, the main reason they fail is because we have a preconceived idea of the technology that will solve the thing or the issue. And we don't really look at what the actual problem and what the specific situation of that community is. So we kind of force a solution that then nobody adopts or they abandon after a couple of months, and it doesn't solve the problem. So I think any new technology would face the same issue, right? So I don't like the idea to start I don't like the idea of starting the solution with, oh, we should think of these and push it more.
Oh, yeah. Like
Mhm.
instead of trying to like go about it by already having a solution in mind, you should,
Right, like sort of you're a hammer and everything seems like a nail type thing.
yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
And like of course from your research, has your experience on, you know, just global water challenges evolved in any way and any way that you'd like to share?
What I've learned is that, yeah, no, like we have to look at what the actual problem is and what kind of solution makes sense for a specific community, even if it's not technology at
Mm,
all, right? Um, Sometimes, if you really want for people to have a sustainable water, and by sustainable, I mean enough water with good quality all the time, you need to think more about the community development, governance, and the economics and all of that before even starting to propose a solution.
hmm. And kind of on that, can you give an example maybe in any period of time in your work? I know you worked in like, for example, California's inland waters, etc.
Mhm.
And any of your experience where that applied?
Yeah, I mean, I have the perfect example in California. Uh, so as I said before, when I was in college and then my PhD, I really became like a water quality analytical. I really became interested in measuring the contaminants in the water, right? So modern methods to measure like the new pollutants in water.
Yeah.
So that's what basically got me the job in Berkeley, which was I the project was measuring some of these new contaminants in the rivers in the Central Valley. And the idea was we need to see if these pollutants are causing feminization of the salmon, and that might be
Oh,
a
yes.
problem, right? Uh, so I was like, great. And I took a lot of samples and measured, and we did different measurements. And it was a pretty neat project from that perspective. But what I learned driving around the Central Valley and going to the tributaries and taking samples was that the problem was that sometimes there was no water.
Mm,
So, like, why would I be concerned about what pollutants? There's no water, so there cannot be no fish,
yeah.
right? So, to me, uh, it was like, yeah, if we want to solve the problem of salmon habitat, sure, the water pollution is important, but if there's no water, there's no way, right? So to me, that was kind of a very eye-opening moment. If you approach a community in rural Mexico, then you come with whatever solution you think works, and then they're like, well, it's just that we don't have water, or someone has the well in the town and they're controlling it, you know, that's the problem you need to solve, not is there estrogen in the water?
And then last question, is there anything that you wish, more people, whether in, like the scientific sphere or just in the public understood about, water systems and water access in general?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is that it is a system and it's not an utility that works just like electricity, right? And works in a very different way. And of course, you need a system to provide energy, but the systems that we need to provide water, because we have to move the water around, work in a very different way. But is there something that I would really like everybody to worry about is, I mean, support the public infrastructure, right? Like I I know a lot of people prefer bottled water, but the more we trust bottled water, the less we support the public systems that we've relied upon for a very long time. I mean, I remember when it was basically you could find drinking water fountains everywhere in the US. Now it's not so much because people don't want to drink from drinking fountains. And in part is because we don't trust it, right? So that trust is important. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what I would want everybody to understand. And yeah, I would say that based on what I know, it's like I do trust the municipal water systems for the most part. So I have no problem drinking tap water.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, like there is like a large role the community understanding and community trust plays in whether like a water solution is sustainable. But thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me. And again, thank you for talking about
Sure,
your work and everything.
absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Now Sarah will take us through a piece all about wolves and wolf dogs and how we can help them right here in Houston.
Hey, it's Sarah Tabrez, and today me and Chaney are sitting down with Nicole from the St. Francis Wolf Sanctuary to talk about their mission, their animals, misconceptions, and the importance of wolf conservation.
I'm Nicole Rogers. I am the president and executive director of the sanctuary. I've been that for 8 years. Here I've had the honor of leading the sanctuary and growing it over time. The St. Francis Wolf Sanctuary is the only wolf sanctuary in the state of Texas that is licensed by USDA to house wolf and wolf dog, which means we are legal to have wolf and wolf dog in our care. And we have a Class C exhibitor's license. Our mission is to compassionately, I'm not saying it word for word as it is on our website, but we compassionately rescue non-releasable wolf and wolf dog and care for them for the rest of their lives. And we share a message of education and conservation. So that is really what we do here at the sanctuary every day. It's all wolf and wolf dog.
And what can a visitor expect to experience when they come to the sanctuary?
They can expect to learn a lot about wolf and wolf dog in the state of Texas, as well as just the differences between a wolf and a dog, because a lot of people really do not understand the true nature of a wolf and the phenotypical differences between a wolf and a dog, and what is a wolf dog. They'll also learn how the sanctuary got started 24 years ago, and they will be introduced to each member of our pack and learn more about them and how they arrived at the sanctuary. And we like to throw in fun stuff like, well, Lapua likes to bird hunt by jumping 20 feet straight in the air, but we just tell fun facts with that. But people have a great time. It is a docent-led tour. It lasts about an hour and a half, 2 hours. There is no direct interaction with our animals at any time.
Okay, that's really great information. So I'm curious, you talked about, educating the audience or the tourists who go to this event on what the difference between dogs and wolves are, and then also what wolf dogs are. So I was hoping maybe you could explain that to our listeners here, as well as, some of the dogs, your animal residents, as you call them on your website. Some of them are listed as wolves and some of them are listed as wolf dogs on the website. So maybe talking a little bit about how not only what these categories are, but how you go about distinguishing them at the sanctuary.
Okay, so that's a little bit of a long answer. So if I start over talking, just say, hey, that's too much information. Um, So a lot of people out there want to buy a wolf or a wolf dog for the cool factor. Think it's going to be great to tell all their friends and family that they own one of those things, you know. But the reality is that a wolf and a wolf dog is an apex predator, a carnivore, and they are not meant to be pets. They are way too dangerous to have in the home. They have no genetic information to stop an instinctual rise, which then must lead to an instinctual attack. And it doesn't matter if you've owned them for 5 minutes, 5 years, or 15 years. If a wolf or a wolf dog have an instinctual rise in your care and they're standing in your kitchen, they are going to attack the first thing that they see. They have no genetic information how to stop that rise or to stop their reaction to it. While a dog has that genetic information to stop an instinctual rise. Your dog has the same instinctual rises as a wolf or a wolf dog, but through thousands of years of breeding out from Canis lupus to Canis familiaris, which is the dog, we spent thousands of years basically putting a break in a wolf, and that break we call domestication, right? That allows your dog to have the genetic information to know how to recall itself off of an instinctual rise. A wolf and a wolf dog cannot do that. So they are an apex carnivore with no break, right? So they're not ever meant to be pets. How we identify whether it's a wolf or a wolf dog is primarily through phenotyping. That's what all wildlife biologists have to do when they are in the absence of genetic information. So that is going from head to toe over the physical characteristics of what a wolf should have. And that will help us determine whether we're looking at a wolf dog, or just a dog. Genetic information, a lot of people, almost everybody who calls me wanting me to rescue their wolf or wolf dog has a genetic test that says that part of their animal is gray wolf. Well, that's because they have swabbed their animal's mouth and they've sent it to some online test that really doesn't have enough specificity to really test wolf from dog. So they get a lot of erroneous tests. So that is why USDA and the American Zoological Association will only take proof that you own a wolf or a wolf dog from either the VGL laboratories out of UC Davis in California or the Species Survival Laboratories out of Chicago, Illinois. So all our animals go through the VGL at UC Davis, right? So we know. But when someone's calling me and asking me rescue my wolf or wolf dog, they don't have those two laboratories tests, right? Or I wouldn't need to ask any more questions. So, so we have to phenotype the animals, and so we teach our guests when they come in these different physical phenotypes, so that they can best determine if they think they own a wolf or a wolf dog, or they know somebody who says they own a wolf or a wolf dog, or if they're just out one day and they think they're seeing a wolf or a wolf dog, to better be able to tell. And we do quiz them on the tour. Are you looking at a wolf or a wolf dog, right? So just a couple of these phenotypes. I won't bring you through all of them, but the ones that can really answer for people really quickly. The very first one we start out with is because it's the eyes. It is genetically impossible for a wolf or a wolf dog to have any other eye color than gold. So if that animal's got brown, black, blue, gray, or green eyes staring at me, it has no wolf content in it. I can stop right there. I don't have to talk anymore about whether your animal is wolf or wolf dog, right? Genetically impossible. There is a very, exceedingly rare wolf that can have red eyes due to albinism, but it is not, that's just very rare. Mm-hmm. So the average wolf or wolf dog that's going to come in here is gold eyes. Now, with that said, a dog can have gold eyes and still not be a wolf or a wolf dog, right? So, because many shepherds, Malamutes, even some huskies have golden eyes, that does not automatically make them a wolf or wolf dog. But the wolf or wolf dog have to have gold eyes, right? Okay. If I'm looking at a wolf, its chest should be very narrow, its legs should be very long and lanky, so much so that if the wolf is standing in front of you, their front feet are almost touching. That's called covering. While the dog's legs are more to the side, right? And their legs are further apart. Wolves, the front two paws are bigger than the back two paws, and even the smallest wolf is going to have a much larger front paw than the largest dog breeds. Mm-hmm. So we've got to have a straight bottle brush tail, no curl up at the end. It has to be bottle brush like a fox's tail, thick all the way around. The dog can have a bottle brush tail, but it'll be fluffy on the top, flat on the bottom. right? Wolves walk different than dogs. Dogs walk in a double track. They side by side. When they walk, it's a double track that you'll see in front of you on a trail. Wolves more fashionable than that. They walk like supermodels, crisscrossing both their front and their back legs, and that leaves a single track.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just a couple of that we go over. We actually go over a whole lot of different things, all the way from the sagittal crest on the head to the ankles to paws and claws and all kinds of things. So our guests get about a 30 to 45-minute lecture on wolf before they get to go to the line to see the wolves. And most of them are not anticipating that. And I don't like to call it a lecture, really. I want to back out that word and use the word conversation, because we have a conversation. It includes a lot of storytelling so that it's engaging, and there's a lot of interaction with them. They learn about what the number, how long does a wolf live in the wild compared to captivity? Why do wolves die younger in the wild? What are the causes for that? There's 4 different causes. Why is regulation important if you're raising wolves in captivity? All of these things we go through, so they really leave feeling like they know a whole lot about wolf, which is great. And that's what we want them to learn going out the door.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was gonna ask, kind of building on this question, have there been any kind of like specific myths or the way like media has portrayed wolves that has been like leading to particularly like an uprise in maybe like false perceptions of animals being wolves, and how do you like counter those?
I think they're everywhere, right? Almost all carnivores are put out in the wrong light, whether it's a shark, a wolf, a tiger. They're all put out in the wrong way. And media is a big culprit of that. So I don't know how many times I've seen a blue-eyed wolf printed by media, or from everything from apparel to books to, that. The other is this concept of alpha. There is no such thing as an alpha in a wolf pack, or a beta or a mega. What there is this dominant parent and a submissive parent. A wolf pack is always mom, dad, and their pups. They can have generations of pups, but there's no wolves from the outside. A wolf cannot join a pack. A wolf can only be born to a pack or create its own pack. So there's no such thing as an alpha. So the alpha, the blue eyes, this concept that a wolf will bond to a human being and just be helping them through the forest, that's not real in reality. The media also likes to portray that wolves are these fierce hunting creatures that are going to, like you see in Beauty and the Beast, where the wolves are coming in and hunting Beast or hunting the dad on the horse. Wolves would never do that. They're neophobic, which means they're scared of anything new or unusual. It makes them very skittish animals. So wolves would actually, their opinion in the wild is, if I've never heard it, I've never seen it, and I've never smelt it, I'm running. It's better to run and stay alive than stay and possibly get hurt, right? So in the media, people are so can't believe. They're like, wait, so if I'm in the forest and I hear wolves, they're not going to all come in and attack us because we're there? And I'm like, no, you're a human. They're not used to you at all. All you would have to do is raise your voice and the whole pack's going this way, right? So they're not really like that. They are very, very cautious animals, and so it's not like that. So there's a lot of misconception about wolf in the media.
That's really interesting. Because I think I personally never knew about the fact about the gold eyes. Like I fully was like, oh yeah, they could have blue eyes and all these different colors, but no, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned before on like policy affecting the like nonprofit. So how do broader national or state policies on wolves affect the sanctuary's mission or operations just generally?
I wouldn't say that they affect us directly. Now, I would like to see more legislation about wolf dog in particular. Across the United States, in all 50 states, wolf breeding, wolf ownership is illegal, right? Wolf dog is often left in this gray area, right? So there's no federal law dictating whether wolf dog breeding or ownership or surrendering is legal or not. And the state of Texas allows that county by county. Some states do it as a statewide law. In the state of Texas, it's county by county. Well, we have a lot of counties in the state of Texas. And the reality is, what I've come across is that most of them say, oh, no, that's not okay. But none of them have succinct laws about it that are enforceable, right? So their game wardens have their hands tied behind their backs because they don't know for sure what they can do. If it's a wolf, they know exactly what they can do, but a game warden doesn't. So part of the education we like to do is working with animal control officers. I'd like to work more with municipality governments to be able to talk to them about, you need to have a game plan about wolf dog and wolf found within residential areas. Most of the time right now, if they find a wolf or a wolf dog in a residential area, they are never allowed to bring it back to shelter, so they put it down in place. So in the state of Texas, 85% of wolf and wolf dog are euthanized before the age of 3. So, which is a tragedy. But what we need is very clear laws about wolf dog ownership for sure. Wolf is still illegal, but the reality is that there are not enough places for these animals to go. Game wardens have their hands tied. Even if they find a legal breeder somewhere or someone owning one, they know that if they confiscate the animal and they have nowhere to take the animal immediately because they can't hold the animal, there's nowhere for them to hold the animal's going to be euthanized. So they're in this catch-22. Okay, I know that person isn't doing as well for that wolf as they need to, but if I take them, they're going to be euthanized. What do I do? So they call us when they've identified one. Do you have any space? No. And then they don't know what to do, right? So I think it would be great if we could work with municipalities about building temporary space, having till we can find sanctuaries nationwide that they could possibly be transported to. If we don't have them, having municipalities or counties building part of their budget to help fund sanctuaries like ours so that we can build enclosures to put these animals in so that they don't all lose their lives. But you're still going to be very limited because there's only so much we can hold and take care of every day, right? There's thousands of wolf dog in particular everywhere. Very few wolf, but lots and lots of wolf dog being held. But with that said, only about 10% of people who think they own a wolf or a wolf dog do. Most of them think they own one, but they don't. And when they call me and say, can you rescue my wolf or wolf dog? I get to make a lot of people mad by going, that is a beautiful husky Malamute you have there, but you do not have a wolf or wolf dog. And it's because they don't know these phenotypes and this information about it. So nationwide, I would love to see more legislation about illegal wolf breeding and wolf dog breeding, as well as if the game wardens can't confiscate the animals because there's nowhere to go, can they at least fine them? You know, can we ticket them over and over again to where it makes their business not viable, right? Something that we could do. I understand that there's too much limited space in court. There's way too much limited space in jail. So they're not going to go after these people for those things. They can barely make enough for, you know, much worse criminal activity, right? So, but I would like, really where I think the core of controlling the problem lies in municipalities. It's cities that have defined codes and laws and fines set against illegal animal breeding and ownership.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm curious, you talked a bit about what municipalities should do, what game wardens are kind of can and can't do. And I'm wondering what the average citizen could do to help, right? As opposed to just these kind of bigger frameworks, which are kind of hard to navigate for a normal person.
I think what the average citizen can do, I mean, it's tough, right? We get people calling all the time, hey, my neighbor has a wolf dog. It's been on a leash and it doesn't have a very good life. And, reporting it is great. There's very little I can do, in that situation. I think the best way is to also advocate for these type of codes being in their municipalities, supporting sanctuaries that exist, but please make sure that sanctuary is licensed. There is a lot of people saying that they own a wolf dog or wolf sanctuary that are just people who have built pens in their backyard that are not USDA compliant. These animals are apex carnivores. This is no different than owning a Bengal tiger, right? They can't survive on domesticated meat. They have to have exotic game, micronutrients in their diet. They have to have a certain level of containment not to escape and harm other people's pets. So they need to support licensed, USDA licensed facilities, and jump up on USDA and make sure that that facility is not getting cited all the time by USDA for poor practices, right? Look them up. That's free to do on Google. If they've got a good USDA report card, fund those places. Help them build more enclosures, buy more land, hire more keepers. Make sure that the people who are working there are professional. At St. Francis, every single one of our animal keepers are 4-year degreed wildlife biologists that specialize in wolf. They all have carnivore internships under their belts before they come in. So it's not just people who like wolf and want to take care of wolf. We love our volunteers, don't get me wrong. They really, really help us. But we require a huge commitment if they want to be working here with the wolf every day. And no, we do not go in with our wolf. The only time we go in with them and put hands on them is for veterinary care. So we don't use them as ambassadors. We don't treat them in any way like they're not an exotic apex carnivore, which is what they are, and they need to be treated with that kind of respect. So really, the best I could say to do is help your municipalities get codes around this thing and to help support your local sanctuary that is trying to help and save these animals.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really great. I have a final question. So I know on the website you guys talk about having like very diverse enrichment programs. So I had a question. How do you tailor these enrichment programs for these individual animals with very different personalities, especially those who've come from trauma or from neglect?
Absolutely. Can I back up to the last question real quickly? And then
Oh, yes, of course.
The other way you can really help us locally is through letting us be a part of education in the school system. So we love to bring kids, for schools to bring their kids out. We do interactive conservation games with them on our Hell Night field. They get to learn all about wolf, make enrichment for wolf while they're here. We also go into the classrooms and we teach. We bring all kinds of interactive things for the kids to learn about wolf and wolf conservation. And if they're not close, we teach a whole ISD in Pennsylvania by just zooming into their classrooms via the computer. So we can do it all different ways. That helps us meet our mission of conservation education as well as support our operational costs here at the sanctuary. So that is the last thing that you can also help us in a way in the community, is helping us come in and teach the kids about how important wolf is as a keystone species here in the United States. All right, you guys, enrichment. Enrichment is very important if you're taking care of captive animals. I don't care whether they're big carnivores or little bitty guys, right? Enrichment is super important. There's different categories of enrichment. There's cognitive, physical, sensory, food. I almost sometimes like to say emotional. There's all kinds of different types of enrichment to give them. And enrichment can be incredibly challenging when you're trying to do that 365 days a year, and every single time it's supposed to be something new and different that they haven't seen. That takes really a lot of researching and networking with other, because you can't have this ending font of ideas. So it's important to participate in discussions with other zoos, other sanctuaries, people who are researching. AZA is great. AAZK for keepers is great. We can jump up on there, and they've got just thousands of different enrichments for animals. And you can take in something that was meant for a tiger and modify it for a wolf. So we do a lot of that. We've learned, absolutely, like you said, some animals love enrichment and some animals love a certain enrichment while the other one doesn't. So a lot of our wolves have come in with and wolf dogs have come in with a very hard start to life, right? And depending on how they were treated, they might be scared of certain things, especially when it comes to physical enrichment. Several of our animals are very scared of anything over their head. If they have to look up at it or it's over their head, then they're cowering and they're ducking. And, we may not know the specific reason to why for that, but we have to slowly start working with them. So we might start at low hanging and then slowly over time move it up a little bit more. So they start getting used to the height, right, of having something. Many of our enrichments are multi-sensory, right? They might be food and physical, or scent and physical, or a scent and it's a puzzle. They've got to figure it out to get to the next scent open. So we also rank every day in a binder. The keepers do when they put out the same enrichment for every animal. By animal, they put out like from a 0 to 10. Okay, Raksha got a 3 on this one. Why Alex was like a 9. He thought it was awesome. And we can start tailoring the enrichments by the ones that the animals majorly like, right? And we start understanding that. Like, we have some animals that just absolutely love rabbit, and then we have other ones that absolutely hate it. We have most of our animals think snake skin is kind of cool, and they'll rub on it. We have one animal that if you put a snake skin in his enclosure, he will jump 10 feet backwards and not talk to you for the rest of the day. He's really upset if you put a snake skin because he's terrified of it, and we don't know why, but he is. So you just learn those little quirks about their behavior and what we're going to do with them each time. So it has to be tailored, but our keepers, they plan the enrichment a month and ahead. So the 15th of every month, the keepers have to give me their next month of enrichment. And they code it for me, what type of it is, what type of enrichment it is. And if I want any modifications, we sit down as a team and talk about modifications to enrichment. But what that planning ahead allows them to do is to buy all the necessary ingredients and materials. If they're building something out of PCV or wood or whatever, it allows them time to build all that. It allows them to get the volunteers active in helping them build those enrichment pieces so that we're not behind the ball. We're proactive, not reactive, right? So I think that's just a best practice. And then, of course, we have our whole enrichment container shed that has everything that, that's a great thing. Once you build something solid like that, you have it to use again and again. So that's kind of how it is for enrichment around here. So it's real easy to fall into that trap of every day it's something in paper with food. It's real easy to fall in that trap. So that's my challenge to them all the time. Like, okay, it can't just always be some kind of paper with food or paper with scent. It has to be something that they truly aren't used to doing. Like auditory enrichment, the wolves here really like. We do not know the reason why they like auditory. We figured out what kind of music they like and what kind of music they don't. They really like jazz, and they really like 70s music, like Bob Dylan and
nice.
What's his name, Taylor? I don't know. So they like that kind of like music. They really hate metal music.
Oh no.
They don't like that at all. And they have mixed opinion on opera, but by far their favorite movie to hear over the speaker system while they're getting their breakfast in the morning. Every once in a while we just play a movie along our tour line so that they can hear. It doesn't play on a screen, it's just the soundtrack to the movie. It's not the music. It's like if you're playing the movie but they're just hearing the words and the music, right? So is Shrek. They absolutely go crazy for Shrek. They love Shrek. They'll all start playing and jumping around. I don't know what it is. It's the voices and it's the timing and the music. It just makes them very playful. They like Shrek a lot. But
I do too. I think that we have
podcasts, they just zone out. They don't really care about podcasts.
Don't put our podcast then.
So, but it's interesting. You learn more and more about them the longer that you work with them. And of course, with each new rescue, the whole dynamic changes, right? Because now I've got a whole new dynamic on the line. That because they really, really affect each other as new ones come and some leave. Then that changes the dynamic of the line each and every time.
But thank you so much for taking the time to interview.
Absolutely.
That's our show for this week. If you have questions or ideas for what you'd like featured on Gulf Streams, leave a voicemail at 713-348-4081. That's 713-348-4081, or email us at westonT@rice.edu. A quick reminder that you can catch up on Gulf Streams anytime through our podcast, available on all major podcast platforms. If you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode. Gulf Streams is a co-production of KPFT Houston and Rice's Center for Environmental Studies and the Rice Sustainability Institute's Eco Studio. Produced by Weston Twardowski. Original music by Carter Dean. Research support provided by Sarah Tabrez and Artur Obama. Stay tuned for No Expectations with Marcus French here on KPFT Houston 90.1 FM, Galveston 89.5 FM, and Huntsville 89.7 FM.